between 2011 and 2019, over 45,000 have died. Teenage boys have died from knife crime or been involved in knife crime in the UK. That's like the population of some places. 45,000 were teenagers. Over 70% of this 45,000 are boys. Another shocking one that I will not really spell out is the percentage of these boys that are actually black boys. It's alarming. Hello, hiya, welcome to Copper with Kiki. How are you? Have you been? Wow, it's been a very long couple of days over here, and a lot of things have been happening at work, ministry, business, everything. But you know what? I am grateful. I was actually thinking this morning, I was taking my time before I got out of bed to think about the things I am actually grateful for. You know, not, yeah, we should be grateful. I'm grateful for waking up, for being able to walk and all of those things. But I was like, okay, what's that thing specifically that in the last couple of days that I'm grateful for? I think one of them is the ability to be able to make some decisions. Yeah, because sometimes we don't have that ability. And so I said, number one, the ability to be able to make some decisions. Number two, the ability to be able to seek counsel. Yes, yeah. In the last couple of days, you know, I've been having meetings and meetings with my team to seek their counsel and then just brainstorm, just think about things and possibilities and, you know, ways we can do better. So yes, the ability to be able to seek wise counsel, it's something I'm really, really grateful for. And like the book of Isaiah says, that the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, the Spirit of wise counsel. So being able to seek wise counsel, being able to listen to wise counsel, analyze wise counsel, and take counsel, I think it's something I am very, very grateful to God for. Awesome. So now to Copper with Kiki. Today I want to be talking about teenage crime. And the reason why I want to talk about teenage crime today is because on Sunday, think I was here on my desk and my husband just called me and said, oh, I should come and see what's happening on the news. And somewhere in London, I think Thamesmead is one of the places, I can't remember what the second place is again. 2 teenage boys were stabbed to death. A boy, and both of them are actually 16-year-olds. And, you know, within an hour to each other, they were stabbed to death. And they couldn't, I'm not sure they found the people who stabbed them. Hi, Ricky. Thank you for joining me. I'm not sure if they found the people who stabbed them or what was, but again, it was connected. The police believes those 2 incidents were connected, one, and then it was a kind of gang fight. But those 2 boys died, and those 2 boys are from the black background. And if you know me very well, I'm very passionate about our boys, our teenage boys in particular. And so when myself and my husband were discussing it, I just went silent. At that point, I didn't even know they were blacks, but I just went very silent and it was like, are you okay? Are you okay? He kept asking me. I said, yes, I'm fine. I'll be fine. And then later on, that night, my younger son, I think my son heard when his dad was asking me if I was okay. So he came down and said, Mom, what's wrong? Are you okay? And I kind of told him. We came to the kitchen and I started cooking. And I told him what happened. And he said, oh. And then we started talking about how often this thing has been happening. And, you know, the fact that we only hear just a fraction on the news. and he was telling me that, you know, just 2 weeks ago, not far from his brother's hostel in school, there was stabbing. And then, you know, he was just telling me, and I was just like, okay, so what can we do about this thing? Is it getting better or getting worse? I know that we can't stop crime, let's be factual, but we can influence it to get better and reduce, right? So to reduce the rate of crime. And so I was not asking him, so why do you think all of these things are happening? Why do you think it doesn't seem to be getting better? And a few of the things you shared with me, I shared yesterday on my Dear Dad post. So if you haven't read the Dear Dad post, please read it. It's on my page. But another thing that I now did was, I now began to think about with myself that how can we as parents help our teenagers, support our teenagers? And when I talk about helping and supporting our teenagers, I'm not talking about just the 2 in my home or the 2 in your home or the 4 teenage boys in your home, but our teenage boys all together. How can we help them stay safe? And I feel it's by us getting some kind of understanding. So I did my research. Now, this statistics I'm going to share is from actually BBC News Online. And what I read about teenage crime is, in the last, between 2011 and 2019, over 45,000 have died. Teenage boys have died from knife crime or been involved in knife crime in the UK. That's like the population of some places. 45,000 teenagers. And then over 70% of this 45,000 are boys. Another shocking one that I will not really spell out is the percentage of these boys that are actually black boys. It's alarming. And it actually broke my heart. I remember, was it 2019? Yeah, where a boy was stabbed to death in Stratford. And that day, my youngest son was the one that shared the news with me. We were driving, and he just said, "Mom, guess what?" And he mentioned Baptisma is dead. And I almost froze, because that boy, when we were living in London, there were 3 of them that are best friends, and he's so himself, another boy, and then this boy that died. And my heart almost jumped out of my mouth, because that was so close to home. And, you know, so it's not just a case of the boys that are committing the crime that are being victims, but even the innocent ones are being victims. Because Baptisma, I think, when saw the scene that was happening as an 11 boy with a boy in a school wearing the same uniform, he went there to support or to find out what was happening, and then he was stabbed to death. A few years ago in uni, my nephew, there was a fight, and then he was almost stabbed to death. The thing is, these boys, they're so trained that they know where to go for in the body, or in the body that the child or the victim will not survive it. All they need is just slash that part of the body. And it's so amazing how they do it. Now, but again, why are boys getting involved in this kind of crime, particularly knife crime here in the UK, gun crime in US, drugs in other places? Why are boys getting involved in things like this? Other than the things my boys shared with me, some of them say it's for self-defense. Some of them say it's so that I can earn respect, so that people can respect me. My boy said, for some of them, when we're discussing, he said it's as a result of peer pressure. Another reason is, I've said to earn respect, to feel among, to belong. And so he was telling me that a lot of them, they don't want to be termed as weak, so they want to earn respect. Again, they want to feel like, oh, I belong to that group, I belong to that. So the feeling, the need to feel like they've been accepted or that they belong, it's another reason why they commit crime. And then, as it is, involvement in crime and involvement in the wrong group. And so when I was talking to him, I said, so why do teenagers want to feel, or from your experience, feel like they belong? And we were now talking about the feeling of belonging and acceptance. And it was like, oh, Mom, the things that happen in the teenage life, the teenage years, that make a lot of boys feel out of place, they feel unaccepted, they feel unloved, and all of those things. From our conversation now, I don't like to blame parents for choices our children make, because the truth is, we will train them, we would teach them, we train them, we help them to become disciplined and whole and well nurtured men. But the choices they make, again, is their call. Our responsibility is to train them, to teach them, to help them, know the right from the wrong. And we pray for them and hope and pray, trust God that they will choose, make the right choices. But again, how about doing our part where if my child doesn't feel accepted, or my child doesn't feel he belongs to the family, or is appreciated, or is loved in the home, all of these things, again, these people that are grooming these boys outside, they have a way of making them feel so valued, such that they would end up doing their biddings, right? So that acceptance, they need to feel accepted. And this is where the issue of healthy self-esteem comes in. Now, I'm saying to myself, I've taught my child, I've told him all of this, I've told him is this, I've told him is that, but have I acted that is that to him as a parent? Am I just telling, or I'm acting and making sure that my child sees and knows his value in himself, and he sees how much I value him? I had a masterclass not too long ago where I was saying that when my children were young, because when we relocated to the UK, I can't remember the conversation I was having with somebody, and he was telling me how social services would take the children away, they go and say this in school, and I said, out of the whatever of my life, I said to my children, I said, if you go and say what you shouldn't say in school, and social services come and take you away, me, I will have another child. And I was saying that to kind of, I think they were about 7 years old. Now my first was just under about 7. That same boy is 20 now. So this is like 14 years or 13 years ago. But I was just trying to say, mind what you say outside of the home. If you have anything to talk, come and discuss it with mommy and everything. But what I said, I didn't say the right way, and instilled fear in the boy. So when we were discussing it, I think a year or so later, I can't remember how the conversation came up, and they were telling me that, we feel you don't love us that much and we're replaceable. I don't want to go into what I did on a daily basis to correct that notion. So when our children grow up with low self-esteem, I'm replaceable, I am not valued, I am not loved, I'm not appreciated, I'm not accepted, I am the problem, then they begin to seek this validation outside. They begin to seek acceptance outside, and that's how they begin to they want to obey or be in the good books out there of these wrong people, and then they began to make those wrong choices. And so in the house, we can begin with ensuring that our children are validated. It doesn't mean our children will make mistakes, particularly when they begin to become teenagers. But I always say to my children, I said, irrespective of the mistake you make, it's not going to define my love for you. It cannot affect how much I love you. Yes, we would have to correct the mistake. We'll have to face the consequences, but it doesn't mean I love you any more or any less as a result of your mistake. So we need to be aware that our children will make the mistakes, but we need to be careful not to define them by the mistakes. Defining them by the mistakes now, maybe saying things like, what is your problem? No, it is, you have done this. I say to parents, when you say to your child, you are silly, you're defining the child. You are that. It's a definition. And I don't want my child to, there's this thing they do in UK where, they're saying, oh, I didn't get that thing right. They say, oh, I'm just so rubbish. No, you are not. Don't define yourself. And it starts with me not defining my child by those things, by their mistakes. And then, as parents, I think sometimes we fall into the trap of raising our children from the place of fear, and they reach that. So when we're raising them from the place of fear, it reflects in our communication with them. It reflects in the way we discipline them. It reflects in the way we train them. It reflects in the things we say, in the things we do with them. And that because when you're afraid, you react, you don't respond. So you react, you don't respond. So you want to be sure that you're not working with your children from the place of fear or the place of anger. A lot of the times we get so angry at some things, and then we now begin to relate to them from the place of anger. When we do all of this, they begin to define themselves by that. Have you ever heard a teenage boy say to you that, I feel I'm the problem in the home? I feel I'm the problem there. They are beginning to define themselves based on our reaction to them. When we're always angry with them, of course, when you're always angry with somebody in the home, it will affect the peace, the atmosphere in the home. And then, mom and dad are arguing, and then the boy hears that they're arguing, the argument is because of him. It begins to affect their self-esteem and their self-worth. And then they begin to find validation outside. And when you're looking for validation outside, you become vulnerable. And then these people prey on their vulnerability. In fact, it's not just on these people, it's also particularly for our teenage boys, even the teenage girls. When they have and that's why, some girls, they believe that you have to sleep with them. Sex is the way they feel accepted, giving themselves so that they can feel, I need to be confident in myself, accept myself. And that acceptance starts from the way we deal and treat our children from the home. Also, when there is an issue, as parents, we should learn to listen. I cannot overemphasize the need to listen to our teenagers. Listen and listen and listen. In fact, there are times I listen and I'm like, if I feel the need to talk, I write them down, or I ask them, do you want me to respond or just listen when you're not sure? 80% of the time, they just want to pour out their hearts. And then after listening, I've noted down some things. Then later, when they're calm and they've poured out their hearts, I can now, respond to everything they have said. But when we're listening to them and we feel the need to respond, we're not actively listening. Rather than actively listening, we're thinking about the response we want to give in our head. And that disrupts our ability to listen and listen properly. So listening to them is very important. Listen and make them know that you're listening to them, because if we don't, they would look for and get people who would listen to them outside. Also, be positive. Now, when they come with their fears and their worries, I remain positive, but it doesn't mean I'm going to wave off their fears and worries. It's the truth, it's the reality. So I need to be realistic. I need to validate. Yes, I appreciate and I understand your fears. I appreciate and I understand your worries. And then define it. Get them to know that, yes, I know I understand it. And when you don't understand it, ask constructive questions, open-ended questions, so that, oh, this is what you're saying, and from what you're saying, this is how I feel. This is what I can hear. How it makes you feel. Am I right? And then if you're getting it wrong, they would explain themselves again, because they see that, yes, she wants to understand. Now, it's not all of the time we're able to do that, or patient to do that, or even have that skill to do that, but because we're the parents and we're emotionally invested in them. But once you catch yourself not doing that, that's what I do. Not too long ago, my son was telling me something, and it was saying it, and I asked him, do you want me to say something? I said, before I said, actually, I won't say anything, just go on, and maybe later on I'll tell you what I think. And he continued. So that just confirms to me that, hey, Mama, I don't necessarily want you to say anything right now. And so he was able to, when he finished, in fact, he gave me lunch and he left to go and have his own lunch. So show them that you listen and you understand, and then have those conversations with them. As parents, do not be afraid to ask them about these crimes. Do not be afraid to ask them about their thoughts about all these things that are going on. Do not be afraid to talk to them about it. Ask. The things I am not sure of, I ask them. Like when I heard that in the news, I called my boy and I asked him about it, and I listened to him before I went online to watch what was happening, or listen or read more about what was happening, because of what I do. So feel free to ask them. And for the ones that you know that they're beginning to get into that space of low self-esteem, of worry, of fear, of the need for self-defense, provide them with alternatives. Alternative means of self-defense. In fact, self-confidence is a very good means of self-defense. Provide them with alternative. I know of a friend whose child went to learn taekwondo. Self-defense. In fact, the other day my child was teaching me, my older son or younger son, I can't remember, one of them was teaching me, if somebody wants to rape you, Mom, this is what you can do. And they were teaching me, how to come out of some kind of pinned down positions and everything. There are alternative means. And then give them means to getting support. Our children begin to get to a stage in life where the support we give them is no longer enough for them. In fact, they don't even want it, because they feel it's Mom and Dad. Provide alternative means of support. I was saying to my son the other day, I said, you know what, I think he's been talking to a counselor, and I was saying to him, I said, I think in January you need to begin to think about getting a life coach. As early as possible, begin to introduce them to this, particularly the boys. The average boy, I don't know where they get it from, particularly from our culture, our background. The average boy feels he doesn't need help. He doesn't need to talk to anybody. I teach my children to learn to take help by me accepting help from them, and then asking for their help, and making it know that it's okay for me to help them in return. And then, in fact, sometimes they don't believe that they need to talk to somebody. Oh, if I'm getting a coach or talking to a counselor, does that mean there's something wrong with me? No. If you go and see the medical doctor, is it because there's something wrong? It's because, yes, it's not because you're bad. There's something wrong with you, but there is an issue that needs to be resolved. So, as parents, we should learn to, explain these things to them. I always have buckets of things I want to talk to my children about. I have a bucket list that I pick, and one by one I'm talking to them about. One of my books, the mantra 10 success principles for teenage boys, it's on Amazon. If you don't have it, is like one of the those 10 things are like 10 things in my bucket list. So 10 of the things in my bucket list I said I needed to talk to my children about before they become 16. So I have a bucket list of things you want to talk about, and those bucket lists won't help you to become intentional, helps you to learn as well. Okay, I want to talk to them about crime, knife crime, gun crime, and all of those things. How am I going to talk to them about it? What do I need to know to talk to them about it? Do I want to ask them questions? Do I want to talk to them? What if they ask me questions? What would be my response to them? Like I said at the beginning of this video, we might not be able to stop the crime, but we can reduce it. And how can we do that? By starting with the 1 or 2 boys in our homes. I hope this has helped you. Sorry, I feel I'm kind of calm, a lot calmer, and that's because this is, something very dear to my heart. I feel very emotional about this topic, but it has to be dealt with. We have to talk about it. And I hope this has helped you. Please, 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 finally, pray for your children. Surround your children spiritually with good influences, with good people, and uproot anyone that is not or shouldn't be in their circle. It works. Ask me about it. It does work. My name is Kiki, the founder of Just Me, and I love you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you again next week on Copa.